Before I even dive into this insane experience, let me just say, if you love wild real-life stories where Karens get exactly what they deserve, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because trust me, you're not going to want to miss what happened when a woman tried to kick my service dog out of his seat on a plane, and how my pilot friend, yes, the actual pilot of the flight, ended up teaching her the lesson of her life. And this story has so many twists you're going to be glued until the very end, because what started as a simple flight turned into a full-blown showdown at 30,000 feet, with entitled demands, cheers, applause, and justice served in the most unexpected way possible. So here we go. Buckle up. I had been preparing for this trip for weeks, because traveling with a service dog is never easy, not because of him. Max, my golden retriever, is an angel trained to perfection, my loyal companion who helps me manage both physical and emotional health challenges, but because of the people who don't understand the law, who think my dog is just a pet, who don't grasp that he literally keeps me functioning and sometimes even keeps me alive. And that's exactly why what happened on this flight was both infuriating and bizarrely satisfying. But I'll get to that. Let me start at the gate, where things already felt off, because I noticed a woman. Let's call her Karen, because she radiated that aura. Complaining to the gate agent about her seating, loudly, arms flailing, insisting she needed a better seat because of her back, and the agent, visibly tired, kept telling her the flight was full and she would have to stick with what she booked. And I remember thinking, wow, glad she's not sitting near me. Little did I know the universe was laughing at me in that moment, because once boarding started, I walked in with Max, who trotted by my side in his bright red service vest, and people smiled or whispered admiringly, except for one voice, sharp and annoyed. Oh, no, 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 are you kidding me? And there she was, Karen, standing right in the aisle, blocking traffic, staring at Max like he was some kind of monster. And before I could even adjust, she barked, "Dogs aren't allowed in seats. This is ridiculous. I paid good money. I want him moved." And I tried to stay calm, explaining, "He's not a pet. He's a service animal. He's federally protected, and he's trained to stay right by me." But she sneered, "I don't care about your excuses. I don't want to sit near a dirty dog. Give me that seat. I have a medical condition." And the irony almost made me laugh, because she was demanding accommodations while trying to strip mine away, and other passengers started grumbling because she was blocking everyone, but she didn't care. She leaned closer and hissed, "Either the dog goes, or I'll make sure you do." And that was my first real chill of the day, because her tone was venomous. But before I could respond, a flight attendant stepped in, trying to de-escalate, politely explaining the laws, reminding her that service dogs are permitted. But Karen whipped out her phone like she was a lawyer, waving random screenshots of airline policies taken out of context, and then, as if on cue, she fake coughed dramatically, saying she was deathly allergic, and couldn't possibly sit there. But here's the thing. I had disclosed Max when booking, I had all his paperwork, and I was seated in a designated spot precisely for him, while she clearly had no medical note or prior arrangement, and yet she doubled down, saying, "I'm taking this seat. He can go under the plane with the luggage." And that's when I snapped, firmly saying, "You're not touching my dog, and you're not taking his seat." And the people behind us actually clapped, because by now half the plane was fed up with her tantrum. And just when I thought it couldn't escalate further, fate threw me a curveball, because guess who emerged from the cockpit to see what the commotion was? My old friend James, Captain James, the pilot of this very flight, a man I hadn't seen in years but who recognized me instantly, grinning, "Well, if it isn't Max and his favorite human." And Karen's face dropped like she'd swallowed a lemon, because she realized the pilot personally knew the passenger she was trying to bully. And James quickly pieced together what was happening, his smile fading as he turned his authoritative captain voice on her, asking, "Ma'am, is there a reason you're harassing a disabled passenger and his service dog?" And she stammered about allergies, about needing comfort, about being more important. And James listened for about 2 seconds before cutting her off. "You don't get to decide who deserves accommodations, and you don't get to disrupt my flight, so either sit down quietly in your assigned seat, or I will have security escort you off this plane." And her jaw literally dropped. She tried to argue, saying she would sue, she would go viral, but James simply gestured to the jet bridge, and 2 airport security officers, who had been waiting nearby because the gate agent already anticipated this, stepped in. And that's when Karen lost it completely. shrieking, crying, claiming discrimination, while passengers pulled out their phones recording the meltdown, and I just sat there stroking Max's head, trying not to laugh. But here's the twist. It didn't end there, because she refused to leave, clinging to her seat like a toddler, yelling that she was being abused, and it took nearly 20 minutes before she was physically escorted off, screaming that the airline would regret this, and once she was gone, the whole cabin erupted into cheers, people high-fiving me, one woman leaning over saying, "Your dog is the best passenger here," and Max, in perfect service dog calmness, just wagged his tail like nothing happened, and James, before returning to the cockpit, gave me a wink and said, "Don't worry, I'll make sure she's permanently banned from my flights," and he wasn't kidding, because later I learned she had been put on a no-fly list for disruptive passengers, but the story doesn't end even there, because midway through the flight, one of the attendants whispered to me that Karen had tried this before, demanding people give up seats, pretending to have medical issues, and that she had even been flagged on other flights but always managed to smooth talk her way back in. Except this time, her arrogance collided with the wrong pilot and the wrong passenger, and karma caught up, and I couldn't help but feel a weird sense of justice, not just for me, but for every disabled traveler who's been doubted, harassed, or humiliated by people who don't understand or respect service animals. And the emotional twist for me came when an elderly man across the aisle leaned over during landing, tears in his eyes, telling me, "My late wife had a service dog, and people treated her badly too, but today I saw someone stand up for themselves and win, and it gave me hope," and that hit me harder than anything, because this wasn't just about Karen, it was about dignity, about being seen, about knowing that despite ignorance, there are good people willing to step up. And when we finally landed, James even invited me to the cockpit for a quick reunion photo, Max sitting proudly in the captain's chair for a moment, and we laughed about the absurdity of it all, but deep down I knew I would never forget this flight, not because of Karen's tantrum, but because of the reminder that sometimes, life gives us allies in unexpected places, and sometimes, justice actually does take off on time. So the next time someone tries to challenge your worth, remember this story. Remember Max, the hero dog who stayed calm. Remember James, the friend who used his authority for good, and remember that no matter how loud the Karens scream, the truth will always be louder. So yeah, subscribe for more stories like this, because trust me, you haven't heard the last of the wild adventures I've had with Max by my side.